Hello, welcome to New Wave Global. And today I am joined by Dr. Mehdi Kazmi, who is a medical practitioner based in New York area in the Bronx. But we are going to talk less about medicine and more about his passion and pursuits. And Dr. Kazmi is the founder and the president of a nonprofit called the Aulia Council of North America. Aulia Council, i.e., the Sufi saints, that is what is referred to as the council. And, disclaimer, I'm a member of its board. So I have a real partisan interest in talking to Dr. Mehdi because not only is my friend, but I share his mission and his goals with which he set up the Aulia Council for North America. So welcome, Dr. Mehdi. I wanted to start off with, ACNA or Aulia Council. Why did you start it? I mean, so that our viewers can also get an idea of your vision for this network, this nonprofit.
Thank you very much, Raza, for having me tonight at this on this forum. I'm a great fan of your channel, and not that you're my board member, but 9 o'clock Eastern time is a regular for me. I'll just give you a little brief on how this started and what the concept is. In 2017, if you remember, the shrine of our great saint Lal Shahbaz Qalandar was attacked, and that made me realize that this core part of Islam, or tasawwuf, is really under attack, and hundreds of years of a way of living and being, which in my humble opinion was the and is the foundation of our civilization, which when it began was a revolutionary message and still is. That compelled me to create America's first Khanka. We are based in a small town outside of New York, Mahopac. It's about 45 miles outside of New York City. And at the Aulia Council Center, we have the America's first Khanka called Khanka Chishtiya Faridiya. I'm a Chishti by tradition.
And
And
Dr. Mehdi, please explain what is a Khanka for our viewers. Not everybody is familiar.
Sure. So a Khanka is a basically a center. It's not just a physical center, but it's an idea, and it's a physical premise where the whole idea is to deliver sustenance of all kinds. So not just spiritual sustenance, but try to fulfill people's needs. And then these Khankas traditionally in the Indian subcontinent have been completely non-sectarian, non-religious in some ways, because that is the way tasawwuf is structured, and that is the not only the message but in practicality what the khankas had been doing in the Indian subcontinent and still do.
Tasawwuf for the viewers is the Sufi path, the Sufi tariqa, the mystical dimensions of Islamic faith. So, Dr. Mehdi, this is great. And, of course, I'm part of your board and I share your vision. But I mean, Aulia Council of North America. Now, the
Correct.
saints are in South Asia, Central Asia, Iraq, and other places. And you are remembering them in North America. And why North America? Of course, you live there, you live here, but what is the resonance? What is the mission that you are following?
Sure. So, Raza, just a little bit more about your definition of tasawwuf as the mystical aspect of Islam. I would just add to that, that the core path, so to speak, in Islam is tasawwuf, but it is really not just a mystical part. It's really there for the uplift of humankind in all aspects of living. So social, political, spiritual, personal. Most tasawwuf now is considered as a personal code of conduct and spiritual being and worship, but it's really more than that. It has implications in all aspects of our existence. So keeping that in mind, and looking at the South Asian diaspora or Muslim diaspora in particular, we came up with this idea to have all those values that are now being countered, and that was the basis of our South Asian civilization, which was non-religious, non-sectarian in some ways. So just to give you an example, Khwaja Gharib Nawaz, who was the first Sufi to be, to do a tremendous amount of work in the 13th century in India. He never really preached Islam. There is no clear record of that. So all he gave was a message, the core message of Islam, which is oneness of God, hence humanity, God's humanity is one, right? There was no idea of the ummah being Muslim only, but the ummah, as in the Misaq-e Medina, or during the Prophet's time, included everybody. So, so the other concept there is love and caring, right? So, what is human? The job of a human being is to love God. Hence, how do you express that? You express that by the love of his human beings and caring for them. And thirdly, and more importantly, which Muslims by and large tend to forget, the core message at that time and of Islam is the concept of justice, right? So social justice, individual justice, not just as in the courts, but justice as a philosophical and a practical sense. So to come back to your question, why in the US and why only a Council of North America? I think the diaspora is following very much what is happening in our home countries, right? So all the divisiveness, the sectarianism, the violence that we see, and violence, is generated from here. It's not just violence. Is not just with a gun. It is against all, each other, and the tribalism and regressive type of Islam that has taken root there and is flourishing is also seen in communities here. So we thought that to counter that and to make a place where all are welcome, and we are not only non-sectarian, but we are sect and tribe silent. On a very philosophical level, to us, these things don't exist, or these definitions, which are human made, which are human inventions, are I don't find any evidence of these in our scriptures, in our ancient traditions. And
the corpus of Sufi writings and Sufi thought.
Exactly.
Hardly, there's no discrimination. In fact, there's no discrimination in most Sufi orders between Muslims and non-Muslims.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. In fact, so to keep that tradition alive at our Khanqa, we have all our traditions. We celebrate Urs, we celebrate Eid, we celebrate Holi, Diwali. I have Guru Nanak Ji's birthday celebrated every year in November. And in fact, very close, both in a spiritual sense and in a practical, ritual, celebratory sense with the Sikh community and with the Hindu community here.
Nanak was a Sufi. I think we must never forget, Guru, that he is Guru of Gurus, but he was so much inspired by Baba Farid, the great saint from the Punjab. So, Dr. Mehdi, that is really remarkable that, that this mission, but, tell us what has been the response so far from the diaspora. I mean, I know that you have you mentioned Mahopac, Lake Mahopac, where you've bought an old church and turning it into a Sufi center, a khanqa, or a kind of a meditational place of both community engagement and worship. So what has been the response? Are you thrilled, or you think there's more that can be done?
Well, I think we're just at the beginning, and we are now reaching a turning point in our journey. I don't think we've achieved what we wanted to achieve, but the it's a work in progress. So it's happening at three levels. One is the community level, where we have outreach to all kinds of communities. The local community in Mayopac, then the Sufi community in the United States, and then other traditions, faiths. I if you notice, I don't call them religions. I call them strands and paths, and I have the same definition for the sects, the so-called sects in our tradition. I refuse to call them sects. I call them strands. So
Trends, yes.
so that in some ways it has been very welcoming, both from the local community and the community at large. But there's also been objection and opposition, particularly from the Muslim community. And that this whole idea of taking forward the revolutionary message of tasawwuf, which is all inclusive, which is silent on sectarianism, which is actually silent on religion.
Yes.
So there has been some opposition to that. It's hard for people to make that thought and philosophical change from, I am a Sunni, I am a Shia, and hence these things are not in my identity is this, and it has been this for the last 1300 or 1200 years. So those entrenched ways of living and being, it's hard for people to recognize that there is this entity called the Khanka, which also has an Imam Barga in it, named after my mother. Um, and there is no restriction on any kind of worship there. The only entity there is God and godliness. So there has clearly been opposition, and in fact, there are a lot of people who just refuse to even attend our gatherings. But that's okay. We have
Yeah, people have, and people are free to believe in what they want to and practice in what they believe in. But I do think that what I would like you to highlight a bit is also the image of Islamic faith. That is also
sure.
something here in the West and in the US in particular after 9/11 and all the Islamophobia. I mean, there's a particular kind of an image of a Muslim, and people don't know much about it. So, I mean, I wanted to hear your thoughts about that as well. How can the Aulia Council help in changing those
Sure.
perceptions?
So, unfortunately, it's not an image. It is actually, there is a lot of truth to what that image has become in the United States, right? So the images, there are these very parochial, sticking together people, most likely toting a gun and a beard, and
Hmm.
and highly critical and non-accepting of all other kinds of people, whether they're different in color, they're different in creed or class, and most importantly, religion. And that has become entrenched in society here. There is clear truth to that. We as a people are, we like it or not, we are a violent people. We have become a violent people because of our own tribalism, and it has nothing to do with the West or America. This is how things are happening in our own countries, and that is reflected here. People bring those values here, but
Maybe
our
we should
faith
just,
is not.
yeah.
Uh,
I just want to add, Dr. Mehdi, sorry for the interruption, that some people, or we, I mean, I think we should hesitate to, because you and I are also talking.
sure.
We were not part of that brand, so I guess there's a more prominent, perhaps a more vocal, disturbing minority or a sizable group of people who justify,
Espouse those things.
yeah, violence. Yeah,
I
please.
agree. Of course, they're louder than anyone else, so that loud minority becomes the image.
Image,
So
unfortunately.
so 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 how do you counter that? Well, first of all, I think you need to have a philosophical framework and a mindset to counter that, right? So there are certain principles of that. So number one principle is that you have to yourself have to be convinced that, you know, this is we have a problem here. We've been reduced to just simple personal conduct. We've been reduced to tribalism. We've been reduced to language, and that you really have to reshift this paradigm. So, you know, and I start from the definition of religion. I use Ghazali's definition of religion. He says, you know, there is no such thing as religion. This is a path, and he says that path is a divine construct which has been created for the common good. That's it. That does away with these divisive religions. So you have to start with that. And then with that, the 3 or 4 areas or frontiers that you need to work on. One is actually believing it and saying it out loud, that, you know, there is, we do not agree with this religiosity. We do not you know, we have nothing against anyone else. Simple terms, you know. And then obviously community outreach, gatherings together on a practical term, and then recognizing that our spirituality is one, which I think to me is the most important part. You know, so not just going to other people's church ceremonies or their synagogues and then saying, you know, hum sab bhai bhai mein, we are all one. I don't think that really works. It has been tried and it has been going up, but we really need to recognize that we are one on a spiritual level. We are not just different entities with different gods and, you know, because they consider somebody the son of God, so it's not right. The issue is that we need to be on one level spiritually. Secondly, I think a lot of scholarly work needs to be done. You know, so there was a time, and I'm not saying it from a, you know, nostalgic point of view, but there was a time when there was a huge body of work which had actually solved all these issues. And particularly in the Indian subcontinent, you know. Yeah. So I'll just give you a simple example. This whole issue of, you know, people of the book, right? So up until Jahangir's time in India, and thereafter too, but formally in Jahangir's time, it was declared that Hindus are Ahle Kitab. They have a body of scripture, they have a tradition, and they have a set system, belief system. So what is stopping us from calling them people of the book? So these are all Muslim inventions. And if I just may venture to say that in our subcontinent, the majority Hindus have actually never, ever fought with Muslims based on faith. I mean, this is I don't know of any instances in history. So, you know, we carry that tradition. So I'll bring you back to our Aulia, that, you know, our definition of Aulia is not just our Chishti saints. Our Aulia consists of Nizamuddin Aulia, Guru Nanak Ji. I'm a great fan of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, a great philosopher and a great equalizer of human beings, and Krishna Ji, you know, who's given us so much of
wisdom,
festivities, yes, and wisdom and happiness, you know, so and fun. So you know, our Aulia are not limited to just the Muslim Aulia.